This morning I have a prayer from Walter Bruggemann that I would like to share with you. And I share this because one of the things that we affirm in our faith is that there is newness and healing and restoration that is possible. Right now, many people in churches have been reading stories of Lazarus being raised from the dead, or Paul in Acts, who raises a guy who falls out of an open window because he preached for too long, or the story of Elijah, who resurrected a boy who had died while he was staying with their family. And from the prophet Ezekiel, where old bones were given new flesh and new breath and brought back to life. These can be really hard things to affirm in the midst of a pandemic when people are literally dying. And it can be hard for us to know what newness means, because we say that we can experience newness and restoration and life, newness of life even now. We say that it is through death that we receive life. So in the dying to ourselves, we can receive life. And sometimes suffering causes that we must die to something so that we can see something anew. Not always. Sometimes suffering is just horrible. And we have to give space for that. But there is also a reality in which when I give up, for instance, my do-it-myself ways, there can be newness that is seen. And yet, the reality is that we still wait for that fullness to come. We still wait for Christ to return so that we can be risen from the dead. We wait for Christ to return so that newness and healing and restoration, and so that the world can be made new in full. And we are waiting for that day. And so as Christians, we have this ability to both affirm and dream and hope and see beyond our current reality to the reality that one day Christ will return and healing and restoration and newness will come. And also to affirm and stand in that place where there is so much tension for us, to say, you know what? Suffering is real, struggle is real, hurt is real, and we see no newness yet. We can say both things as Christians because we affirm that God is in our midst, in the midst of suffering, and that Jesus suffered and died, and that it was real and it was hard, and yet that there is hope because of resurrection, and that we can see newness of life, that we can have a vision beyond our current experience. And so I read this poem, or this prayer from Walter Bruggemann to you in order to remind us that we both affirm newness of life, and yet we yearn for newness of life to come here. So this is from his book, Ode to Heaven, Rooted in Earth, and this is called No Newness Yet. So, receive. You are the God who makes all things new. We gladly raise our voices and move our lips to acknowledge, celebrate, and proclaim your staggering newness. As we do so, we hold in our hearts deep awareness of all the places where your newness is not visible and has not come. Our hearts link to many places of wretchedness, short of your newness. We picture our people at home, sick, in pain, disabled, paralyzed, and short of breath, and no newness yet. We know up close the deep wretchedness of poverty, of homelessness, of hunger, of unemployment, and no newness yet. Move our hearts closer to the passion of our lips. Move our lips closer to your own newness. Work your newness in hidden, cunning ways among us. Move us closer to your bodied newness in Jesus, newness of strength come in weakness, newness of wisdom come in foolishness. Draw us from the wretchedness we know to his scarred, bloody wretchedness that is your odd entry of newness into our life. We pray in the name of his suffering newness. Amen. Even in the midst of our world's suffering, may we know and see resurrection newness. and wait for it.